Welcome to the Global Investor Podcast, a show that focuses on helping foreign investors enter the lucrative U.S. real estate market. Host Charles Carillo combines decades of real estate investing experience with a professional background in international banking to interview experts in all areas of U.S. real estate investing. Now, here's your host, Charles Carillo.
Welcome to another episode of the Global Investors Podcast. I'm your host, Charles Carillo. Today we have Ryan Dumas. Over the past 2 years, Ryan has arranged over $135 million financing for apartments, hotels, self-storage, and assisted living facilities. So thanks, Ryan, for being on the show.
Thanks for having me, Charles. Appreciate it.
Yeah, for sure. So I briefly spoke about your professional background there. Can you go into more depth about your financing background, your hospitality background?
Well, I'll just go real quick. Start off. I mean, when I was 15 years old, I started bussing in restaurants. Went up the ladder to serving, bartending, managing, and so forth for managing menus, managing restaurants. I created wine list, drink list, the whole thing. Went into hotel financing about 8 years ago. I was doing equipment financing for about 3 years. And the last 4 years or so, I've been doing the refinancing and the acquisition side. And that's pretty much where the short story of what I've been doing the last, 7 to 20 some years.
So the company you're with, GRP Capital Finance, what type of services and financing do they offer? I was looking at their website and it's quite a bit. What do you focus on and what do they mainly focus on?
Well, I mean, I'll tell you where we focused on, and of course so I work for GRP Capital. It's a division out of Fort Myers, Florida. We also have a remote office in Beverly Hills, California as well. I would say about 2 to 3 years ago, it was a lot of hotels. The majority of hotels was probably about 95%. Right now, I would say we're more about a 75% hotel portfolio that we're financing right now. Mm-hmm. We became diversified more 2 years ago-ish on the assisted living, multifamily apartments, and other, gas stations, medical, a little bit of everything in there too. So that's where we're at. We done the financing side. I mean, is all over the place. It started off as mainly SBA. We've done non-recourse CMBS. We've done Fannie Freddie agency loans. We also do some private lending, which is more of a family office. And those are shorter period of time while you're stabilizing. To then go into your conventional SBA or non-recourse loans.
So like a bridge loan.
Correct. It's their own family fund bridge loan. It's if it doesn't meet other bridge loan standards and everything, we can supply that as well. It's about a $200 million set aside.
Nice. Okay. Now you went through a couple different loan types. I mean, can you explain the different ones that pertain to real estate, mainly the conventional, CMBS, agency, stuff like that?
So, most of the multifamily, don't usually use SBA because, SBA is mainly for, hotels, restaurants, C-stores, medical, and so forth. On the multifamily side, we can do CMBS, non-recourse, Fannie and Freddie. You can do bridge loans, and it depends on each asset. If you have an asset that's not stabilized, and it's 50, 60% occupancy, rents are low, a big value add. Not a lot of people are getting into the, CMBS, Fannie and Freddie. They're wanting usually on most loans, 90% occupancy. Mm-hmm. So that's when, people go into that bridge loan or a local bank. But then also local banks in your area, every area is different. You go to Dallas and, they can do a $6, $7, $8 million loan at a local bank. You're in a small town, usually they're maxing out at $2 or $3 million. So that's when then you go into the non-recourse or recourse national market. Okay. Most of the non-recourse deals, and I know people get, $800,000, $1.2 million non-recourse here and there, but most of the non-recourse loans are $2.5 million and up. Right now, they're still lending on the CMBS non-recourse side around the 3.5% to 4%. They don't. If you have a lot of late pays, slow pays this last month and a half, they're going to look at that Also to touch on that, if you don't mind, those CMBS lenders they're not doing well because of the hoteliers that are 82, 85% down on their occupancy. So they're really hungry for these multifamily that are still doing well. Because
Explain CMBS. Can you?
I mean, it's a commercial mortgage-backed services, and I mean, I could talk about that for an hour. It's very complicated.
Just an overview here, 30-second overview, if you could.
Basically, if you're refinancing, most people go in there and they'll do interest only, and then they'll cash out, pull a lot of money out, pay their investors, pay themselves some money, buy another asset. And it's a low rate, longer amortization, long-term fixed, great rate, but there's minor details in there. So if you go below your debt service for 1 month, it triggers to your master servicer. Long story into that. It's a whole 20-minute topic right there. Right now, a lot of people, even if they're paying their bills right now, the mortgage, and they have money aside, if they're not meeting their debt service, which if they have 2 rooms at 100 unit property, they're not meeting debt service. There's no revenue coming in, or barely any. So that's triggering a soft lockbox, which triggers the management company to help you out. So on that instance, it's not good. It's just the same as not making your payments. So right now you got a lot of hoteliers that have CMBS loans, the commercial mortgage-backed services loans, that some are paying their bills, some are not paying their bills. They're defaulting on those. So they're trying to get where you have to have a 2 to 3% FF&E reserves, and there's another reserve they have too. They're trying to get it where you can use those reserves for pandemics or instances like this, but they don't have anything set up like that you can just take out of there and pay this month. And they're implementing now, they're working with, there's lawyers, attorneys working on this right now that they're going to work on, where the debt service doesn't have to meet for those few months, and they can use those reserves to pay for the next 2, 3, 4 months to get by. But some of these hoteliers and other businesses aren't going to recoup if tourism and everything else doesn't shoot back up pretty quickly.
So how is COVID affecting, I know we just touched on it a little bit, but affecting your company, your borrower specific? I mean, I imagine it's devastating to the hotels.
It is. I mean, I was getting ready to close on some large CMBS loans myself, but in a way I'm glad I didn't, so that they didn't suffer for the consequence, like I just said about the CMBS loans. A few of them have SBA and conventional loans. They're larger hotels, larger businesses. And I was getting ready to close on 4 or 5 of them. So that would have been great for me, but also I'm glad that that they didn't do that for what's happening now, because right now their local banks, their SBA is actually giving them deferment, forbearance, and things like that nature. So they're actually safe right now. So I don't know if they will go into a CMBS loan after this is said and done at all. But it slowed those down for sure. And I used to do about 1 to 3 SBA deals a month as well, between about $1 to $4 million. So of course that slowed down. There's different parameters. They're wanting people that are liquid. So if you're buying a hotel, gas station, medical center, and you're buying it for $3 million, and you're wanting 20% down, 600,000, you got an extra 10,000 in reserves. Right now, they're like, that's not enough. We need 6 months or a year's worth of reserves now. Also, they're looking at whatever your business is. If it's a multifamily apartment complex, and that's just, conventional, local bank, Fannie, Freddie, whoever that is, they're looking at your client base. Do you have restaurant servers and bartenders, or if you're in a downtown area? Because there's some places in St. Pete, other downtown areas like New Orleans that are real heavy on bartenders, servers, managers. And the last 5 weeks, they're showing 0. A lot of them, I don't know what the numbers are, but I know it's really high, past 80%, of them live week to week, month to month. They're making, $500 minimum, usually $1,000 a week. Sometimes the ones in New Orleans I know are making $500 to $1,000 a night working. And if they work 3 nights, $3,000, but right now they're making 0. So it's affecting a lot of people. The only ones that's not affecting are the essential workers, the nurses, the doctors, everybody that's working right now, or people that have cash. That's why cash is king. And if you're liquid, you can buy assets. But a lot of people are going to be refinancing into a longer amortization. Like a lot of hoteliers I have right now, and other businesses too that are in say a conventional or a local bank conventional loan at a 10, 15-year amortization, even a 20-year. They're going to a SBA because we can get you into a 25-year amortization at around a 4.25%, 4.5% rate. So it can give you better cash flow. And what we're trying to do is a lot of the non-recourse CMBS. I'll stick with hotels specifically that are failing right now, that aren't doing well, that aren't even making the payments because of the COVID-19. Their average, I think it's their average loans are around $7 million. So they're trying to increase SBA from 5 million eligibility to 10 million. So if those averages are 7 million, of course, I know people have 2, 3, 4 hotels, but just one person having a hotel, we can refinance it into an SBA and at least defer them for those, not defer, the government's paying 6 months principal and interest. So then they can save their asset. But they do have very high prepaid penalties called a defeasance in CMBS, which most of the clients I have, their defeasance are $200,000, $500,000, $600,000.
Wow. Yeah, it's pretty hefty fee to pay to refinance.
So yeah, a lot going on in the industry right now, and things are changing. It's approvals aren't coming out in the 2 or 3 days that we usually have. And the banks that we have are working on some PPPs loans right now, and they're backed up.
Yeah, it just looks like for our lenders I speak to, it's just the underwriting across the board is just getting stricter. So when we would review properties, obviously as multifamily, you're going to be looking at the diverse employers, right, across all of your different tenants, making sure that 15, 20% of your tenants aren't with one employer and all this kind of stuff. And now you have to get even stricter because it's not just per employer. Now you have to check per industry. So it's now that you're just like, how much is in restaurant? You've got to go back and really do like a whole lease audit on these properties before they're refinancing them, just to make sure that they have, like you said, the capable renters, the capable income streams that aren't going to dry up or haven't dried up yet because of COVID.
Exactly. And kind of like you touch up on what you said, it's about demand generators, markets, and everything else. If you buy a place, say it's a hotel or a multifamily, it's a little bit different each one. But on the multifamily, if you have one big factory that has, 90% of the employment around there, and it's oil, like Houston, and I'm not saying all of Houston, but closer to Baytown, some of those areas right now. Talked to a gentleman last night that was on our Zoom call. There's about 26 of us on there, and his occupancy is very, very low. It's almost gone, but he had I'm not going to say the exact numbers, but say roughly 2,000 people at a plant there. They went down, and within 3 days, they went down to 200 people. So that's going to affect, hotels, because the people that are traveling once a month, once a week, the higher ups in the company. And then also the ones that live around there, if cost of living, if they're living in a class A, class B around there, and they were doing 100,000 a year and they have no job, they're probably going to be going down to a class B or C, moving in with family and so forth. So a lot of that area is going to be, moved somewhere else. It might take a month, 2 months after some stimulus checks or something else, but the stimulus checks aren't going to get them what they were making. So there's going to be a big shift. That's why you got to check. I mean, I always ask, what's the demands, what's the market, where your clients, where your tenants at, where your clients come from. It makes sense, because now you're like, oh, now I know why you said to diversify and have more demands there. I'm like, yeah, if you're in Odessa and you have one big factory there, whatever, just say it's a solar field and they got 200 employees there, and 100 are staying at your apartment complex for, say, that's not real safe. It might be for 2 or 3 years, but it's not safe. So
yeah, it's that risk when you're getting a little far out into tertiary markets, and when you get out that far, it's not usually as diverse with the job market. So you have to make sure that you're really, when you start dealing in those type of markets, that there is some sort of diversity of what you're dealing with, because now they're just not going to loan on it. So it's kind of, your lender is going to say, no, we're not doing that. And obviously you might find some that will, but it doesn't make it a good investment. But so what happens if for clients that you have that have hotels and they're normal, the very low occupancy right now, are there ways that they can work with it? Not just restructuring their financing, but like we were speaking earlier, and you were saying that they can restructure kind of how their hotel serves guests, and just kind of get that occupancy up?
Well, I mean, I don't know which part it was. We did.
Oh,
we
the
discussed.
extending it, extended stay.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I mean, and it's a little bit hard in the district there too. So a lot of people that have extended stays in certain areas right now are doing better for the locals, the people that may have a job and they don't have good credit, don't have a house or a rental or anything, and they're paying the $300 a week to stay at a hotel. If there's 5, 10, 15 other hotels in the area that only have 2 or 3 rooms, those extended stays that had 50, 60% occupancy, right now there's a few. I mean, it's not every single extended stay, but a lot of those, are doing 60, 70% occupancy right now because of that. You just got to be careful what you get. I mean, if you're getting a Hilton, a Marriott, a higher tier product right now, I just don't know what the appetite is for them, because tourism is going to go down first, because most people, right now it's April. If you're looking at your June and you're going on vacation, I mean, we just canceled our 13 day trip we had in Denver. We just don't know about the virus, things that are opening, and other things that are out there too. So we closed ours down, but we kept our, I think it's our July or August, our 3-4 day trip to Sanibel. So a lot of people, and that's just a sample. I mean, it's just myself but a few others I talked to, they're canceling their trip out of country because of things that are going on, and they're doing stuff within an hour, 2-3 hours. So you're going to see a lot less travel by cruises, planes, and all those things. But a lot of hotels right now, to get back on the topic, what we're doing actually is we're transforming hotels that were pretty big in the tourism area or were better in tourism at one time, and this is even before COVID-19, and we're transforming them into apartments. So we're looking for some interior corridor, exterior corridor. Some of them were built as a Holiday Inn, Marriott, Hilton's have a good bones to them, in a good area that has low vacancy, and has more than one demand. And they're growing at a certain rate. So, I mean, that's one of the things we're looking for. I know some people are talking about student housing and other things, but also see what your asset can do. Can you convert it to assisted living? Can you convert it to something else if it's not doing well? There's some areas that won't rebound at all if it's like between Austin and Dallas, between 2 bigger cities, and you were doing well because of overflow from another city. But a lot of that's going to change right now. It's not to scare, but it's going to be similar to the 2008. I said this about a month ago. People were like, oh, no, it's not going to be that bad, which, we didn't know. But now there's cases of COVID that were here since January, they're saying. So, I mean, we weren't completely prepared for it, and not to get in that topic, but we weren't ready for it. But it's good that we did close up some of our businesses. But, it's time to get back on opening up some businesses carefully, so we can save the economy here.
What do you think, from a lender's point of view, are the long-term effects of COVID? Let's say, later 2020 and years to come.
I mean, the biggest thing is if we rebound in the next few weeks and things open up and the virus doesn't spread as bad, we won't be as bad. But if this happens for like another 2 more months, I mean, they're saying that 80% of restaurants won't open back up again. I mean, so that's going to cause a lot. I mean, I have some restaurant owners that I know personally that go on 4, 6, 8 week vacations a year. So, I mean, it's going to affect a lot. I mean, just from the restaurants, from the hoteliers, not much travel there. The servers that work there aren't going to be, making the money that they were making before with those restaurants and hotels. And then, of course, if they were getting their stuff dry cleaned, the dry cleaner is going to slow. It's a big circle. So it depends on how long it goes on for. The longer it goes on for, the more it's going to affect the economy, and everything else. The more people that go on unemployment, and if they're getting $850 a week, they're not going to want to work. So, I mean, there's a lot of things that come in play with this now. I mean, a lot of hoteliers I have, restaurant owners, dry cleaners, if they're paying $300, $400, $500 a week for their employees, and they're getting unemployment $650 plus their $250, why would they come back to work? So there's a big effect in that now as well.
Yeah. So it's going to be, I mean, the strict underwriting will probably last for a while to come, even after this comes back around. Is that?
I would say, I mean, yeah. I would say about a good year to a year to 18 months. I mean, look at '08. I think it was around 2 years where it
Mhm.
had that, stabilization process and then went back up from there. But it's going to be a slow process, but it just depends on how long it's going to last and how we rebuild and go from there. Um, but we got to buy local. We got to stay local. We got to spend money. But if not many people have jobs, it's kind of hard for people that don't have jobs to spend money. But the ones that do have the money, we need to keep that circulation going, kind of like 2008 didn't at the beginning.
Yeah, no, for sure. Yeah,
People pulled their
definitely.
money out of stocks, everything else stopped, held back, and just froze. But you have to watch your money when you're losing a job or you're getting your hours cut in half. I have friends that are in IT that are making six figures and now their hours got cut in half. So they're making half the amount of money.
Yeah.
So you have to cut something. And when everybody, when 50-60% of America starts cutting 20%, it's across the board. So
Yeah, it definitely
but,
trickles down all the
yeah,
way down.
like the numbers, right now, as I saw yesterday, I believe it was, 22 million are unemployed. Now, once things open up, it might go back to 10 million or 6 million. We don't know yet, but the less the unemployment, of course, the better. So we'll see how it goes. If we have 18 to 22 still unemployed, it's not going to be good.
Yeah, no, that's definitely true. The just like now moving along with a couple different things I wanted to touch on is you're a real estate investor and you have a different, when we've spoken before, you have a different business model compared to a traditional, say, multifamily investor, obviously because of your lengthy experience in hospitality. Can you explain what your criteria and strategy is when you're buying properties and what a typical business plan looks like?
Well, it's different for every single area because some people have the same business plan. It's like, here you go. If it fits, it fits, but it has to be different for each area. If you're looking for multifamily in an area, you have to look at that location and see what jobs are there and the growth is there and everything else. I have people that just look, oh, I want to go here. They don't know the insurance, the taxes. They don't know anything about it. That's why it's good to go pick one or two cities close to you, or a partner, one or two cities that you like and know everything about those cities. I have people that are just looking at all over the U.S. and don't know anything about it, and then they go ahead and they put an offer in a place, look at a place, and I'm like, hey, just so you know, I've done some hotels in the area, and their taxes are 5% higher in that town than the next. That's why it was for sale for a year and a half. Oh, I didn't know that, and the numbers look good, but I didn't see that really. I kind of thought the numbers were high. I thought I'd just get them a little lower. And I'm like, no, the taxes, and then when you buy it for that $1 million higher price than the seller sold it for, your taxes are going to be even higher. You got to fight those every single year. So it's different. Working in the banker side, I see risk. So it's something that you want to make sure that you have a lot of demands, a lot of jobs in there, a lot of growth. Right now we saw that, I saw yesterday or 2 days ago now that because of all this COVID-19 stuff, that they took a sample. I think it was about 100,000 people. I got to look at the study again. That the majority of them did not want to stay downtown now. They want to stay 10, 15 minutes away from their jobs in the downtown market now. So there's going to be a new shift now. Just because of congestion, a lot of people and, getting diseases or sick or whatever it may be. It might change a little bit, or maybe just a fear right now, but a lot of that's going to change. A lot of, like us, like where you're buying at, it's a different strategy, but a lot of jobs are going to change. People right now with Zoom, I think it was the first week, it multiplied 4 times the amount of viewers. I don't even know what it is now, but of course their servicer couldn't handle it and everything else. But there's going to be a lot more people that are going to be working at their homes or offices. So these large offices are probably going to be vacant. People are going to turn those into assisted living, self-storage. So you got to think outside the box right now on what you're investing. We're going to be investing in multifamily. Multifamily is, assisted living, senior residential assisted living, apartments, senior living, and some other things involved in there. So I have a couple of people that are, work in assisted living, and we're going to go assisted living in certain strategic areas, and then we're going to do multifamily. We have a couple of different areas picked out that we're looking at. But you can't just buy in a city state that you have no clue about. And also, I mean, there's a reason why something is for sale for so long. If you look at a place that's been for sale for a long time, why are the local entrepreneurs, investors, why are they not buying it? There's usually a reason. Now, if you get a lot better price, and they're asking $3 million, and all of a sudden you get them down to 1.5, probably worth it. But there's a lot of things to look out for. I look out for risk, and I look at all the things when we analyze our deals and how our lenders analyze their deals. I look at those aspects. Some others might not do that, but it's all about that market, that area, because just because one person didn't do well, means that you can do well. But if it's in an area that's decreasing and job growth is decreasing, just because it's a good price doesn't mean it's a good deal.
Mm-hmm.
So, I have people that see good deals, and, good deals are different for each person.
Yeah, sure.
But I mean, it just depends on where it is. But,
so when you work with all different types of entrepreneurs and investors, and I imagine as you were speaking before, you definitely deal with some that are a little bit more inexperienced. What are some of your successful clients that you work with across all different types of asset classes and businesses? What are the common factors, common themes you see with them on how they review deals, on how they bring deals to you, that differs from the inexperienced investor that doesn't even know the taxes in the area, like you're saying, and is focusing on the whole country versus 2 or 3 markets?
I mean, I would say the ones that try to do it themselves, that don't have a team. Somebody that's good at underwriting, or say somebody that's good at construction, GC, and they're like, oh, I'm going to come through and do all this, and they're not good at underwriting. Well, also, they're not good at money raising. It's good to have somebody that can help you raise money, somebody that's good at that knows the plumbing, electrical, and all those things. Have an asset manager, have somebody that knows the property management system well, because if you just go in there buying an apartment and you get a property manager in there, how do you know they're going to do their job? Somebody's got to manage your property manager. So I believe in team, and there's a few things that I know, and there's a lot of things I don't know. And instead of me spending months or a year or 2 years trying to find something I don't know, I'd rather just get a partner or 2 partners that can fill in those gaps and work efficiently. And that's what I see a lot of investors that do. They're trying to do all those roles, or they're trying to just buy and they just, oh, here's a good deal. And then they find out they're all over the country. They can't get to these places, and they're not taking care of them. And that's why investors like absentee owner, or somebody that's not there. Oh, I live in California and have a place in Pennsylvania. Okay, well, and then you go to Pennsylvania and you're like, oh yeah, we never see the owner. He's never here. We could do whatever we want. So it's more about being hands-on, customer service, making sure your property manager's doing their job. If it's a hotel, making sure that you're on staff, because a hotel or a restaurant is a different animal.
Mm-hmm.
You have to be there, especially a restaurant. You have to be there almost every day. That's why most of the restaurant owners will go away for a week or 2 weeks in the off season. But during the season, they're there 5, 6, 7 days a week, and sometimes 10, 15, 18 hours a day. But you just have to you have to love what you do. You have to be good at it, and you have to have a good team. That's the way I see it. And a lot of people also, they don't have the extra money in reserves. And we're finding that out now. The ones that don't have enough for renovations, or the renovation budget changes. And I'm asking them, hey, what's your renovation going to cost? I think it's going to cost about $1 million. Like, okay, cool. I'm like, where's your I want to see it on Excel. I want to see what it is, how much it is per room. Because once you start getting past the studs, past other things, and we need another 200,000. And I understand that happens, but have that budget in there where you think it's going to be $1 million, and you've got everything broken down in an Excel spreadsheet of what you think you're going to spend, or your GC or whoever did that. What happens if there is mold or whatever else the next step is, put in that contingency, put in that 10%, 15% contingency, and go from there, because that's what makes people successful. Because out of the 23 loans I did, I think last year, I think 18 or 19 of them all had renovations. 18 or 19, I believe it was, at least had renovations. And the other ones might have had a small $20,000, $30,000 renovation. But, because once you renovate your apartment, your hotel, whatever that business is, you increase the value of it. If you got a hotel and there's one on each corner, there's 4 corners there, and I finance that asset, and it's all brand new paint, new furniture, new sign, everything's, a lot of the stuff's new in there. What are they going to do? You start from the outside, the lobby, then the rooms. People are going to say, oh, this hotel looks nice. Pictures online and so forth. They're going to get the most of the business there now. And then the others, if they have money, financing, they're going to do the same thing, follow and return. But if you don't do those renovations right away, you don't know if they're ever going to get done because you're not supposed to. And it depends how many assets you have, how much liquid you have. You're not supposed to use your cash flow for your renovations.
Yeah, for sure. The reserves has been an issue I've seen with new investors I've spoken to, not just COVID. It's just an ongoing, people just don't understand, especially with real estate, multifamily, commercial, whatever it is, the correct reserves that are required for operating a property. Even if we're, the economy zooming through and it's December 2019 and, everything's going great. And then you just 2 or 3 months later and people don't have the proper reserves. And that's where it really comes out, because you're not going to be able to cover all different types. There's going to be more money that people are spending right now on property management because they have additional people that are coming in cleaning. There's additional supplies. It's harder to get supplies. All these other expenses that come out that even if you have 88% of your people paying rent, you still have a lot more expenses, and people aren't factoring those types of things in with the whole with how they're doing it. And 6 months reserves is usually kind of what people say. I like going higher than that, but now with like the new agency guidelines that are going even 18 months on mortgage and principal and interest, I mean, that's going to really change the whole dynamic of new, especially syndications that are happening now into the future. And touch on one other point you had there with the management. That's another issue or factor I see happen with new investors, where once they get a property manager, they feel, hey, it's all passive now, which is completely incorrect, because you have to be, especially larger properties where you have weekly, now it's almost daily contact with that manager and doing the asset management of the asset, through the property manager. So you're making sure stuff's getting done. I mean, you're working just like they are. I mean, you're not taking any vacations or doing anything. And it's just an ongoing thing and that's just what happens with real estate. It's a business. It's not just a passive investment.
Well, that's what makes it easier of having that team. So if one person is delegating to operations / asset management, and it's like me, there's a few different things on that. So, your property management's Michelle. Hey, Michelle, how's it going today? Oh, it's, we just had 4 people move out. And because if you don't have a relationship with them, they have nobody to talk to about their problems or issues. You're not saying, hey, how's the NOI? What's NOI? Explain to them what the NOI means. Explain these things to them. So then they feel that's more of their asset as well. And they want to take care of it as it's their own. Oh, we got a 15% NOI. Let's see if we can get 20% and everything. Then they're working harder at that. I have people that pay very minimal for some of their property management or some of their managers in some of their offices, depends how small or large they are. And they'll pay them on bonuses, and they can make a lot of money on the bonuses, because if it's a place that was a low occupancy place and they can build that occupancy up, especially if they just renovated it, they're working hard for their money. But it's a relationship too. I mean, because some people, how long have you talked to your property manager? Oh, I don't know. I mean, have they visited the property? Some property managers don't ever visit the property. The ones that are a larger building, and I can see if it's a newer place, it makes sense. It's ran well and everything else, a great, oiled machine. But the thing about it is it's good to go check on your place. If you have 4 partners involved, take 1 month here, 1 month there. So you're going every 4 months to that property. That's the best thing. And then also I hear it all the time. Oh, I'm just going to go visit the property tomorrow at 8 a.m. And they're telling the property manager, they're telling the person that's at the property that they're going to meet when they're going to be there. Yeah. And I talk about it a lot. I just don't get it. If it's a hotel and you're absentee, you go, hey, I'm going to go visit. What they're doing. You say you're going to visit there Monday at 8 a.m. Friday is Saturday, or Saturday is Sunday. They're sweeping, they're mopping, they're cleaning, they're doing this stuff that they haven't done in the last 4 or 5 months or 3 or 4 weeks. So that's why you go unexpectedly and you're like, oh, the place looks beautiful here. Oh, and they're always going to keep up with it. Not every single place or person is, but the ones that know you're there and you have a good relationship with them, and there's the ones that are going to be keeping it up, like you're always going to come in. Yeah. Restaurant owners, the same thing. you're there and you have 3 or 4 restaurants in the area, or 2 restaurants, you're going back and forth from those places. If you're never there, they're gonna be like, oh, he never comes in here. She never comes in here. But it's about keeping that relationship with your employees, your tenants, your clients, and coming in, seeing how your business is.
Yeah, it's really important. That's why I was laughing, is because it's something when I go look at when I go check on some properties we have out of state, and I'll check them in the morning, and then as I'm arriving, I'll be sending an email to my property manager to meet that afternoon. And it's kind of like you go and you walk the hallways, you see what's been swept, you see if there's any litter outside, you're going in the basement. Is there, if you have a basement, whatever it is, and you're checking to see if there's water, are the mechanicals working? Is there stuff that's not supposed to, you walk around, that's not how the roof's supposed to be, this gutter's not right, something like this. And it's like, well, this is something that should have been, should be put on the list. I should be knowing about this. This is a CapEx expenditure, stuff like this. And then you can kind of go and see exactly how it works. The drive-by, you don't want them, like you said, go and prep for you to show up and make everything nicely vacuumed and everything nicely cleaned, and you know what I mean? And you want to see how your tenants see it every day, because then you can relate to them and go, wow, you should be complaining because this isn't how it's supposed to be. But
yeah, and it's nice because when I do consulting on hotels and other assets that I've done consulting for in the past and everything, this is pretty recent and everything. Going to the Chamber of Commerce, doing all these things there, taking care of your employees, having a pizza party, having these things going on, and it's just one of those things that come in there, and people respect you a lot more than they work harder and everything else too. They can call you by your first name and say, hey Ryan, how you doing today? Great. Instead of going, oh geez, Mr. Dumas is here and he's one of our investors here and he's checking the property and they're all scared. Talk to them and, like I said, build that relationship and tell them how they're doing a great job. If they're not doing a good job, ask them, if they've been trained, ask them how things are going there. Ask them, what you could do to help out.
The open lines of communication, for sure.
Ask questions. If you don't ask questions,
Sure.
You'll never know anything.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I wanted to touch back a little bit ago too about the reserves. Because people are like, oh, I have insurance. I'm like, yeah, you have insurance, but if you have a plumbing that breaks, when's your insurance gonna big plumbing? I've had hoteliers and apartment complexes that have plumbing issues. I'm talking about like main breaks, and it's right on the edge where it's like, oh, that's not the county's part or city's part. That's your part. So what are you doing with this main that's breaking out? Water's just flowing out and stuff, and it's a $50,000, $100,000 job. Your insurance isn't going to pay you an hour later. They're not. Sometimes it's been a month, 2 months where the insurance is paying you. So if you have $100,000, break, leak, whatever it may be, what are you going to do in this meantime? So that's why it's good to have this reserves. It's good to have 6 months, 12 months. I feel like, oh, I've about a month or 2 months in there. It's not enough. So that's one thing they're looking at the underwriting now. They're wanting the 6 months in there for over $3 million on the Fannie Freddie. They're wanting below the 3, they're wanting 12 months, and then I think it's above 6. I heard yesterday Tim was saying that's around that 18 months in reserve, which I haven't actually heard that yet until he said that. But they're getting more strict, and it's going to change every couple of days, every couple of weeks. They're probably going to want a stronger partner. They want something that's more liquid than they did before with that 10% liquid. They might want more now, but things are going to change. The banks look at risk, like you said. So it's just making sure that you put more money down. If you're trying to buy 2 assets a year, buy one and put more money down on there. Make the payments easier. Have more money in reserves. Banks are going to look at risk too. Make it easier for yourself and the lender. But I know a lot of people that in this last 3, 6, 9 months were 80% loan to value, borrowing an extra 10% from another hard money lender, doing 10% seller carry, 5% from somewhere else. And, it's a 95%, 90% loan to value, no matter which way you look at it. Maybe not from that first position lender, but it is. So you just got to look at the total of, and if you looked at, you were going to bump your rents up $150, $200, right now, it's not going to happen. Yeah. It might happen in another 6 months, a year when, if jobs are coming back and everything else, because a lot of these renters that are renting for, it depends where you're at. Say if you're renting a house for $1,600 a month, your apartment in the area is probably be $1,200 a month. So if you can save $400, $500 a month by renting an apartment, a lot of single families are gonna be up for sale. To touch on it too, if you got, a lot of Airbnb guys I know that have gals that have 5, 10 units that they don't have money in reserves for those. People were getting those for 10, 15, 20% down. They didn't look at reserves now. Well, if they were just, every time they'd make $50,000, $20,000, they would put it and buy another one. Now they're looking at, they haven't, the last 5, 6 weeks, they haven't had anybody in those now at some of those, and nothing's coming in. So they're $1,500 rent, $1,400 rent they would have from a mortgage. They were getting around $2,500 to $3,000, Airbnb and VRBO and everything is zero. So they're paying their mortgage. And some of those houses were valued at like maybe 200,000. They're paying 225, 250 because I'm making $3,000 Airbnb. So they're paying more for them. Yeah. So there's people I know that have 5, 10, 20 of those Airbnbs that they don't have more than maybe a month in reserve. So this next month or so that comes by, once the payroll protection program, the EIDL loans are kind of out, and it really might take 6 months by the time all those savings and everything else are wiped out, that the housing market's gonna have a big effect here coming up. Yeah, for sure. And just circling back on that, with the main that happened to me with a property I have out of state, and it was, you get a call from your property manager and water's coming into you, or this situation, this property was coming into the basement. That's not something where we got it rectified right away, but that's not something that you want to be waiting around trying to call your insurance company. It's get the contractor out there, start digging up my front yard. And, you need to have the reserves for that, or you're going to find yourself. I mean, if it wasn't property draining, something like this, I mean, the amount of mechanicals and issues that you would have in that basement that'd be ruined. I mean, and that can be happen anywhere. You have to have the reserve so you can pull the trigger on emergencies that come up, that always come up whenever any type of business you always run, they're going to come in, especially with real estate. So, yeah, and it's funny on that same topic about banks and lending and not having that reserves. Like, oh, I want to go to a bank that doesn't want me to have reserves and doesn't want this, and then they're going, oh, well, it's tight now. And I'm like, well, that's because you went to 30 lenders, you found one that would lend to you, but now what are they doing? Are they giving you, are they helping you out with your payments right now? That slow, whatever business it is? No. That's why a lot of even our back to like hotels and other assets we have with the SBA. SBA gave the lenders were doing a 3 months deferred on those. So it's deferred on the principal and interest, but the interest accrues. So once 3 months passes, they go, hey, you have $1,000 a month interest. Here's $3,000 for these last 3 months. Let's have it. Now you can go to your lender and say, hey, can you put that in my payments? Now it increases your payments and how much you owe as well too. And it's not always the best thing. But now if you have an SBA loan compared to a conventional or non-recourse loan too, it's good because right now the government is giving 6 months. If you have an asset that's SBA, or if you get an asset and refinance it by September, that's SBA loan, you'll get 6 months of no payments, principal and interest. So they're actually paying that principal and paying that interest. So that's actually a good program too. And most local banks, nobody else is doing that. So I had people that went from SBA loan to a conventional right before this happened, and their bank's doing nothing for them at all. So it's also me communicating, going, hey, let me see if I can get you back into the same lender we had, or back into an SBA loan and save you, because they didn't know this was happening. Nobody did. But I did tell them, hey, that, rates are going down, that, there's a lot of supply, kind of recession starting to slowly happen. Of course, my theory is COVID-19 kicked us into recession, into second, third gear, whatever you want to call it. I know 3 or 4 weeks ago, everybody was like, no. Well, now that GDP growth is down, and if it happens again next month, the second quarter, we're in a recession. Yeah. Whether you like it or not, I'm not trying to scare people, but you got to know and face reality. And then, right now, but when it does go to that lowest point, whatever it is, 6 months, a year from now, that's a good time to buy, because that's your low again. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it's definitely going to play out here in the next few months, and we'll see what happens. But, it's the one underlying fact is that underwriting and banks and lending is going to tighten up. And so how can people learn more about you and your business, Ryan? I mean, I have a Facebook page called Traveling Commercial Finance Guy Ryan Dumas. I have a group that's called Commercial Multifamily financing, 5+ units or more on both those. If you have any questions, I have I can give you, Charles has my cell, give me a text. Sometimes I get a lot of calls during the day, and it's easy to set up a time. Kind of like when somebody's doing a podcast, set up a time, hey, call tomorrow, next week, set up a time to talk and discuss. Not a lot of times I can help out your situation, but I can at least, send you on to another professional that I know in my circle that can help you. I don't do any residential financing at all, but I have a couple of national, and if you're in a certain state, I have some really good ones in Texas, Florida, California that I refer them to. So I refer a lot of business, and it's just a big circle for me. So, I mean, if you have any questions, call me, text me, Facebook. I am very busy, active, setting up a call to talk, or if it's a quick text and questions of if I can help you or not, I can kind of tell you yes, no, and, if it makes sense, let's schedule a call, but I'm here to help out. That's what I do. I love what I do. I live in Clearwater, Florida. If anybody has any questions and wants to meet up after this is all done and said, I meet with clients. If it's, I have a couple of friends that want to meet and discuss apartment financing, senior residential assisted living, hotel financing, different conversions, just thinking outside the box and banging heads together. I'd love to meet up with you. I travel different states just to meet and talk, but let me know how I can help with financing. We're going to start raising capital right now with doctors, attorneys, and lawyers and everything else that have that money that the stock market went down. Once it goes back up to kind of where it was or where they're safe again, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to be pulling money out or using additional money to buy these assets. And we're going to strategically put more money down, be more selective, a little harder in underwriting. And a lot of our, assets are going to be either residential assisted living, or they're going to be hotels that we're going to convert to apartments in areas that I think have a few different demands that'll do well for 5, 10+ years.
Okay. Well, great. Well, thank you very much for being on the show. I'll put all the links. I have your, your email, your phone numbers, all that stuff we'll put into the podcast notes and into the YouTube notes. So thank you so much for being on the show today, and looking forward to connecting with you in the future.
Awesome. Nice talking to you. Nice to see you visually.
See you later. Have a good day.
See you, Charles. Take care.
Hi guys, it's Charles from the Global Investors Podcast. I hope you enjoyed the show. If you're interested in getting involved with real estate but you don't know where to begin, set up a free 30-minute strategy call with me at schedulecharles.com. That's schedulecharles.com. Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Global Investor Podcast. If you like the show, be sure to subscribe on iTunes or Google Play to get new weekly episodes. For more resources and to receive our newsletter, please visit globalinvestorpodcast.com. And don't forget to join us next week for another episode.
Nothing in this episode should be considered specific, personal, or professional advice. Any investment opportunities mentioned on this podcast are limited to accredited investors. Any investments will only be made with proper disclosure, subscription documentation, and are subject to all applicable laws. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions of guests are their own. Information is not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss. The host is operating on behalf of Harborside Partners Incorporated exclusively.